Hi friends, family, and folks. Thanks for joining on today. And who we are remembering as honoring the women of North Hastings is Sarah Margaret Moore. She's remembered by her grandniece, Karen Ziegler. Sarah Margaret Moore was the great aunt of Karen Ziegler, and she was born April 26, 1883 in Lamab, Ontario. She was one of 8 children born to Sarah Elizabeth Poole, nee Tate Moore, and Josias B. Moore. Her siblings were George Josias, born 1871, John Charles, born 1872, Jessie Tate, born 1875, Alexander Tate, born 1877, Arthur William, born 1879, Mary Elizabeth, born 1881, and David Roy, born 1886. She was raised and educated in Lamab. Her parents both died when she was a young woman in her 20s. At one point, she lived in Alberta for several years working as a nurse. And after working in the West, she returned home to Lamab, Ontario to live with her brother, Alexander Moore, and his wife, Margaret, and their child, Dorothy. Sarah Margaret never married. After Alexander and Margaret's death, Sarah moved to an apartment at Riverside Chateau in Bancroft, and that was in 1977, where she lived by herself until she was about 97 years old. At that time, she moved into the Centennial Manor, where she lived until her death in 1987, where she had reached 103 years old. When Sarah turned 100, her birthday was celebrated at the manor in grand style, with many family members and from near and far who came to celebrate with her. She enjoyed chatting with her relatives and friends and was noted to be still very clear of mind. She was good at still remembering her nieces and nephews and all her friends, although her eyesight had failed a little bit. It says here that Karen Ziegler, who is remembering Sarah Margaret, was able to visit her great aunt when she was 100 years old and found her to be very welcoming and entertaining, and that she had a striking Moore family sense of humor. And it says here that Karen wished that she could only have spent a bit more time with Margaret. And that went on to say that her sense of humor, she told a story about her brother, George Josias, which was the grandfather of Karen Ziegler. And he had a real sense of adventure. And he traveled to the Klondikes in the late 1890s. And he did bring back a golden nugget that he gave to Sarah. And Karen has often wondered where that golden nugget ended up. She also recalls sad stories of untimely deaths of her 2 brothers, John Charles and David Roy, who both died in the result of a gun-related accident, and her sister Mary Elizabeth, who died very young after a bout of pneumonia. Sarah Margaret herself died on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1987, after a remarkably long and full life, and she's buried in the St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church Cemetery situated along Old Lamab Road, beside both of her parents and other family members. So this is the remembering of Sarah Margaret Moore, who was part of building our communities around Canada and shaping the world as we know it, honoring another woman from North Hastings. So thanks, family and friends, for tuning in. If you like what you see here, please hit subscribe and follow along and join our growing community. Thanks.